So, when I started writing this video, Nexon had announced MapleStory Classic World before basically going completely silent. However, given my abundance of free time and low self-esteem, I never stopped thinking about it. And eventually it reached a point where I had formulated too many opinions, and without a clear outlet for my growing MapleStory manifesto, I finally decided to fulfill my childhood dream of speaking into a microphone over video game footage. However, as luck would have it, just as I was getting over my fear of speaking into that microphone, they held their biggest and most recent playtest, and it kinda screwed up my timing. It's not really my intent to comment a whole lot on the changes that people have been finding out from actually getting to play the game, as I'm sure I'll be making very clear over the next few minutes there are people far more qualified than me to talk about them. This new information doesn't really change what little point this video had, it just kinda made me rewrite my intro. To put it simply, I am very late to the party, which, in fairness, is a pretty good thing to be when you don't have anything to contribute to the conversation. I just thought it'd be fun to talk about why I'm personally excited for MapleStory Classic, as well as some concerns that I have about how it honestly probably will be handled. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in and you haven't burnt yourself out on the probably dozens of other videos on the topic, then stick around and, I don't know, watch me struggle to make a YouTube video, I guess. Like basically every other MapleStory player, I started playing the game a long time ago when I was a child. However, unlike every other MapleStory player, I was really bad at it. I never got far past level 30 pre-Big Bang, I didn't really play that much post-Big Bang, and I'm not level 290 now. I have played pre-Big Bang private servers, but I'm not supposed to say that. But also I've not really played them much at all. The extent of my personal experience with the classic game caps out at around level 50, and I did most of that while playing at work back when I had a job that let me sit unattended on a shitty computer all day, which means I technically got paid to play MapleStory, which does make me a professional player. I haven't played MapleStory a whole lot in the last 2 years or so, but I do try to log on every week just to do my weekly bosses. Most of my modern MapleStory gaming was from like 2018 to 2023. I don't want to make this whole video into just my history with the game, but basically I played a lot a few years ago, got 9k Legion, and then fell off and became a lot more casual around the first Hyperburn that they did. The worst part is I'm not even really a seasonal player because I always miss all the seasons with big updates. I don't know. Here's a screenshot of my character's stats if you're the kind of person who cares about that. Should have recorded this before the event buffs went away. It would have looked so much cooler. Despite my abundant shortcomings, I do think I have a pretty decent perspective on the game as someone who's into it enough to understand what the game does really well beyond just the superficial details like the way it looks and sounds, even though I also know enough about the game to know the best part about it is the way it looks and sounds. I'm not a pre-Big Bang purist. I think modern MapleStory is better than pre-Big Bang in almost every way, despite how this video is going to end up sounding. I also think classic MapleStory has the potential to be way better than the modern game if handled correctly. And to explain why, I think it makes the most sense to start by talking about what modern MapleStory does poorly, or if you prefer, what classic does well. There are way better videos that talk about the history of MapleStory in detail, probably even with creators who did actual research. So I'm not going to try to go into detail about what exactly changed when. This video isn't really meant to be a deep dive into how the design has changed, but to give us some perspective, I want to hone in on one thing that I think has undeniably changed over the years, and then use that as a jumping off point, because I think it's a bit of a microcosm of the overall shift MapleStory has seen since its Big Bang update. It helps that this is also one of the only things that actually changed during the Big Bang update. I'm going to spend the next few minutes ranting about navigation and world design in a 20-year-old 2D cartoon game, and why I think the game was ultimately better for it. This thing looks like it's gonna mine Bitcoin. Let's go! Fuck. If you don't know what Artale is, basically Nexon made Roblox, and then the community just immediately went and tried to recreate classic MapleStory.
The only problem is that every time I attack, my shirt disappears.
And Artale is the only one of those endeavors that I am familiar with and that I already have a character on. As evidenced by the fact that Classic World exists, or is gonna exist, Artale isn't a replacement for old school MapleStory, but it is pretty close, and it's a cool community endeavor. And more importantly, it's not a not a private server, so I can actually record it. It's pretty common for MMOs which try to modernize themselves, but MapleStory used to require you to actually navigate its maps to move from place to place, as opposed to skipping the majority of its areas with mobility or just teleporting to whatever map you want to be in. One of the most iconic parts of the old game was starting out with barely any money and having to walk between the cities. And you'd have to navigate many actual platforming challenges that would sometimes drop you into a golem pit and instantly kill you if you failed. Not only that, but each of the 4 main areas around the cities all felt unique and different to navigate. Hennesys areas were pretty standard, though they tended to be pretty large. Pyrrhion had a lot of tiny cliffs that you had to jump up and a good amount of verticality. Elenia had even more verticality, with lots of hidden portals as well as vines and slopes that made fighting more difficult for some classes. And Kerning City was, I don't know, pretty flat and kind of big. It's a city, man. I don't know, they got concrete. I guess the construction areas are kind of cool. Also, speaking of kind of cool, the whole island and all the cities surrounded the middle city, Sleepywood, which the game just ominously called the dungeon.
I got a dilemma where I wanted to get footage of Sleepywood, but I'm level 8 and I don't want to level up in order to get there. I guess we just see how far we can get.
Every town had its own road to the dungeon. It was like the game was saying that no matter what path you took, whatever city to become whatever class you wanted to be, you were always meant to end up in the dungeon.
We made it 2 maps.
And once you got there, it had some of the hardest to navigate maps. The ant tunnel was full of little bumps that made walking around difficult, and there were enemies everywhere, so you were constantly getting pushed around. Getting trapped in Sleepywood was a formative experience during my younger years that taught me nothing and didn't prepare me for the real world, but it was still pretty cool. I guess you could argue that having everything in the world surrounding one single dangerous place that's full of powerful enemies is a little gamey, but I think it's a bit preferable to having like 2 small maps outside each city that all connect to the center hub, which conveniently splits off into each different area with a little diorama set up to tell you what flavor of town you're going to. The 6-path crossway is like if the training area in the old tutorial with all the conveyor belts had actual working portals to all the cities and was also just slapped in the middle of the continent. And this is to say nothing of the old school MMO boat rides that operated in real time and not only served as vessels for travel, but also social interaction and world building. This is the part where I get to put Final Fantasy XI footage in. More so than maybe any other genre aside from probably competitive games, MMOs are often more than the sum of their parts.
It took me like 20 minutes to log on here and get this footage.
And those parts are often composed of a lot of friction. All game design is basically just trying to figure out how to make friction fun, but for MMOs there's an added element of socialization that makes these ideas work. If you told me you wanted to put a 20-minute boat ride in Sekiro, I might be a bit skeptical. But if you told me to take that same boat ride to Orbis, I'd ask you to bring your match card deck. I wanted to say Omak board, but I don't know how to pronounce Omak. It might seem like I'm overstating what an impact tedious map design had on classic MapleStory, and for what it's worth, I am. Exploration is something that kind of sits in the background in games. Once you've explored, you can't explore. But even if you've already memorized every map, navigation is still something that influences the game. It has value beyond its novelty. It contributes to, like, the vibe. When you remove it, you remove the player's reason to care about the world beyond how it directly affects their ability to progress and win the game. This is where I think Classic has a pretty big strength. Because despite my previous unhinged rant, When was the last time you even thought about the six-path whatever? There's a button you can press at any time to teleport to any city in the game, basically whenever you want. Modern MapleStory is a fast-paced, power fantasy boss rush where you're quickly jumping around, wiping out every enemy as soon as they spawn, and killing ridiculous bosses by doing trillions of damage. And that's fun. Modern MapleStory's problems aren't in its map or its lack of boat rides, and changing those things to appeal to a player who misses the old game would just lead to a mediocre middle ground that sucks in basically every way. And this is why I'm excited for MapleStory Classic World. Because much like its other high-profile classic re-release contemporaries, modern MapleStory has philosophically split from its original version in honestly most ways. However, unlike the original versions of RuneScape and World of Warcraft, I think MapleStory Classic World has one big disadvantage. The original version just wasn't very good. I know that's controversial to say in a video about why I like it immediately after I just praised a pretty foundational aspect of it, so let me try to navigate this contradiction that I've created for myself. I do like classic MapleStory. There is a lot about its design that I think was fun or had a lot of potential, but like, classic MapleStory class design is really good. I'm a bow-whacking enjoyer. I think the experience of being an archer and having a really wide horizontal range, but being crippled when enemies get too close, is good class design. I think having to find wide maps or maps with platforms that you can shoot from, or having a frontline class like a warrior group mobs up and keep them away from you so you can shoot at them, is good MMO gameplay. Just actually having an MMO where you can grind in a group is good MMO gameplay. I am excited for classic MapleStory just on the merit that I can actually grind with my friends. And they probably won't even play this game, but maybe I'll make new ones. I think MapleStory is a really good, cool, evocative idea that sounds great when you describe it to someone. MapleStory is a 2D game where you make a little guy, pick one of a few unique classes, group up with other people, and kill cute enemies together while getting stronger and unlocking bigger and better skills. But like, think about classic MapleStory experientially. You kill the same enemy for dozens of hours to get a new job advancement where you get a handful of new abilities, some of which might not even be new buttons to push. Sometimes you get a cool final attack passive that actually lowers your DPS because for some reason it has an animation tied to it that locks you out of other abilities. And after you unlock your job advancement, your reward is that you go out and kill the same enemies for hundreds of hours until you do it all over again. I'm being reductive, but like, do you see my point? It's not great. There's a reason this game was mostly just a chat room for a lot of players. The thing is, though, that this isn't actually a problem, at least not a big problem. Classic MapleStory isn't meant to just be a time capsule. The game is getting changes, and depending on what those changes are, classic MapleStory has the potential to be better than the modern game. Dare I say it might even be decent. Old school MapleStory's biggest flaw isn't systemic or philosophical like the modern game. It's contentual, it's content. It doesn't have content. Classic MapleStory basically doesn't have content. It has leveling and like one boss. The game doesn't need to be reimagined from the ground up because what's actually there is already cool. You can't put classic maps in modern MapleStory because it'll ruin my dailies and make me cry, but classic MapleStory already has them. Party quests, group grinding, cool map layouts, saving up for potions, having an actual economy, fucking pig beach. What's already in the game is good, and with the right updates, the game can be even better. Modern MapleStory is a Skinnerbox daily quest game where you complete your checklist and either embrace the life of a mapler and whap for 6 hours before you pass out at your keyboard, or you log out and come back tomorrow. It's basically a mobile game. It's a fun mobile game, but I don't think I'm setting the world of MapleStory discourse on fire by pointing out that the game is a FOMO-driven, time-gated casino. I know that classic MapleStory kind of popularized a lot of the bullshit that the modern game has. Shout out to gacha mechanics. But there is at least the potential for classic to be something different. Anyway, here's why it probably won't be. So I originally recorded everything before this like a week ago, and in between test edits to practice before I made this final product, I kept thinking back to the back half of this script. What originally followed here was a justification for my skepticism. You might have already gotten a sense for it, but I have an obvious bias toward old school classic MMOs. If I had to choose between the best possible versions of classic or modern MapleStory, I would pick classic. That being said, I do love the modern game. This video only exists because I love the modern game. However, despite that, I wrote what ultimately amounts to kind of a lukewarm takedown of the direction the modern game has taken over the last few years. I said toward the beginning that I haven't played MapleStory much in the last 2 years, and that isn't a result of the direction the game has taken. There isn't really a reason why, I just fell off. This part is going to be even more self-indulgent than the intro, but if you're in this deep into this stupid long video, then whatever, you're signed up for it, I guess. One of my goals with YouTube is to spread positivity about cool video games. In the MMO YouTube subgenre, and especially in the MMO MapleStory YouTube subgenre, there's a lot of negativity, and there's a lot of good, genuine reasons to be negative. At the same time, I really like MMORPGs. They're my favorite genre, and MapleStory is one of my favorite games. I want to share my genuine positivity about this game and this genre, but in order to be genuinely positive, I think you need to be honest about negativity. That was my goal with the following section, and while I didn't write anything that I don't believe, my words didn't exactly match my intentions. Basically what I'm saying is I'm going to rewrite this part. Also, check it out, while I was editing this video, I got this pet in RuneScape. That's like 1 in 3,000 at 500 something kills. That makes me a lucky guy. But you know what makes me even luckier? The fact that you're watching my video. As much as I do genuinely believe classic MapleStory has the potential to be a really good MMO, the fact that I play MapleStory makes me pretty concerned about it. MapleStory has improved a lot in the last few years. I didn't play much back then, but I always kind of got the impression that the few years after the Big Bang update had the game kind of spinning its wheels and trying to find its identity. In the modern era though, ever since like the 5th job update, I think the game has been really good. Really better at the very least. I think this culminated in the Destiny update, which was the most fun that I ever personally had playing the game. MapleStory always had and still has a lot of flaws, but it is very enjoyable. A few years ago, when the decision was made not to delete the reboot server and murder the game, it was announced that Global MapleStory would receive its own development team for the first time in a long time. Until this point, GMS always followed the Korean version, and while this is still mostly true, we've gotten a decent bit of GMS-specific changes and content. The problem is that what the GMS team has put out thus far has painted a picture of a development team that is kind of out of their depth. MapleStory is growing, and if you're someone who is solely interested in progression, the game is better than ever. But that progression is drip-fed almost entirely through time gating, events, and dailies. You clock in, do your dailies, and get rewarded with a steady stream of experience points and mesos until the Starforce event comes by a few times a year and sucks it all away. The GMS team has been pretty slow to react to feedback, and they're pretty selective with what they choose to listen to, all while ramping up the monetization of the game, heroic servers especially. To a degree, this is to be expected from a Korean company operating overseas, but Classic World should be a community initiative. They've done a good job conducting in-person playtests to get feedback and ruin my timing, and we'll see how things pan out closer to release, but I fully expect them not to back down on certain philosophies surrounding the game. For example, and this is not gonna make me any friends at Nexon, I think openly discussing private servers should be a part of the Classic World initiative. Obviously, we don't have to mention specific servers by name or draw attention to them, they are still illegal. But people have been playing these servers in various forms with various changes for over a decade at this point, and feedback from those players shouldn't have to be stifled by pretending they don't exist. Every other MMO re-release has done this. Classic WoW has had people talking about how things were on private servers since before its initial 2019 re-release. Jagex allows servers like the Lost City project to host faithful recreations of older versions of their game for archival purposes, with notable content creators even making videos alongside their normal OSRS content. Daybreak Games gave Project 1999 permission to host its classic EverQuest server alongside their own progression realms that they release. NCSoft gave the Homecoming server an official license to host its City of Heroes private server. To be clear, I'm not asking or expecting Nexon to go this far. My point is that it's been shown time and time again that private servers have never been a replacement for a quality official product for the vast majority of people, and the existence of these servers provide valuable insight on how people want to interact with the game. Nexon is looking at potentially hundreds of different spins on classic MapleStory they can draw inspiration from, and if I may be so bold, I would feel confident asserting that these servers are a large part of why they decided to remove HP washing in their official classic world and, by extension, not immediately kill the game. There is a lot of good feedback to be gathered, and it would be stupid and juvenile to have to dance around the uncomfortable subject of the private servers that people have been playing for years. I don't want to play on these servers. If Classic World is a good product, you shouldn't want to play on these servers either. But they exist, and being honest about that is a good first step in being transparent about developing a game that only exists because people have wanted it for so long. Hopefully Nexon doesn't blow up this channel because I left this section in, but if they do, remember, I have 0 subscribers and I am not a YouTuber. I am not sure what the consensus is on what kind of vision classic MapleStory should have. Like I said at the top, I'm not an experienced pre-Big Bang player. Despite all my ranting about private servers, I basically have not played on them. And when all this shit was out for real, I was trying to learn my times tables. I just personally enjoy the slower game. The lack of hard time gating makes me feel like I can go at my own pace because no matter what I do, I have to do the grind eventually. I like the simpler itemization giving insane value to tradable items like work gloves, or having different weapon types and attack speeds. It feels more like an RPG while the modern game feels more like an action game with gambling. At this point I would like to point out that I genuinely enjoy cubing. I might not know what the vision for Classic should be, but I can only really hope that Nexon does, or at the very least they're willing to listen to the players. All I know is that, despite my grievances, I am excited for the game. Excited enough that it made me finally pick up a microphone and try to talk about it. If for some reason you're still here, thanks for watching. I love MapleStory, I love MMOs, and I want to make more videos talking about the things I love. And that includes you. To close things out, here's a list of all the things Classic wouldn't have if I were in charge, and I won't elaborate on any of them so you can't get mad at me. This video took me probably close to 100 hours to make between writing, editing, and figuring out how to talk into a microphone without making my voice sound horrible, so if you're not one of the people that I made stay up late with me to figure out why my microphone sounded so bad, then seriously, thank you for watching. I made it to the end of this and I don't want to die yet, so I probably will make more videos. I'm supposed to do the YouTuber call to action thing here, but I'm not a YouTuber, so I don't have to. Hopefully, I see you in my next video, but if I don't, then I will see you in MapleStory Classic World. Also, look forward to my Arrow Light progression series. That Inkwell note went hard as fuck, right?